Hello, Megan.
Hello.
Welcome to Medicine of Sound Studio.
Yes, it's beautiful here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is her first time on camera, so we're just going to ease her in maybe. I'm curious, what made you called to come here and talk today?
Uh, Called to come here and talk today. I mean, I've had some really I guess transformative experiences using plant medicine. For me, it's helped me integrate a lot of sort of lessons. I suppose lessons that have been there for me in my everyday life, but then kind of surface more greatly when using plants, I guess is the best way to describe it. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's just the reason I wanted to come talk to you is because of the impact that it's had on me in my life.
And me and Megan met at a ceremony, and I realized that she attends quite often, so I felt like she must be getting a lot out of it. And I am starting right now connecting with people and seeing what their journey has been like, because we hear from so many different people, so many different perspectives, and it seems like your strongest calling is with cactus. And today we usually hear about ayahuasca, psilocybin. So do you want to open up about what your cactus experiences have been like?
Yeah, for sure. It's actually really funny. Cactus was the first plant medicine experience, or I don't like to say drug experience, that I've ever had, but it is. Prior to that, I had smoked pot the odd time and, drank here and there, but it was kind of my first introduction to psychedelics and that kind of world, which I think is uncommon. Most people start with something like mushrooms or, things that are a little bit easier to attain. But yeah, So actually how I got into it was I went on a trip to Bali, and this was at a time in my life where I was doing a lot of deep healing. I had just gotten out of a really abusive relationship, and I was still kind of, I guess, figuring a lot of that stuff out and kind of the trauma that I had endured through that relationship. And I hadn't, like I said, worked with any plants before, and I had always wanted to try something, whether that was to kind of journey on my own with mushrooms or something like that. And anyways, I got back from this trip, and I had a girlfriend who attends ceremony asked me if I wanted to go to one. She just out of kind of thin air was like, oh yeah, I'm going to this plant medicine ceremony on, the weekend, and did you want to try it, and do you want to come with me? And it kind of just manifested for me. And yeah, it was a perfect timing. It was around winter solstice. And yeah, it was a really, really, really beautiful experience. I let go of a lot of kind of, I guess, I had a big moment of forgiveness for myself that first ceremony, and had that kind of all is one kind of experience that a lot of people describe as their kind of first psychedelic experience. And so I definitely got that feeling the first time. And I unfortunately didn't get anyone's contact information from this particular ceremony, so I was kind of in the dark for a while afterward, but had always wanted to kind of have the intention of going back, and then another opportunity presented itself about 6 months or so later, and so I was able to kind of get back into that scene, and I made sure to get contact information for people afterward so that I could make sure I could go back and it could be more of a recurring thing in my life, just because, again, it was very, very impactful at that time.
Well, it sounds like the community aspect may have been equally as important as the medicine aspect. Maybe
Yeah.
more? What was your experience?
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely the reason I continue to go back at this point. I mean, I think with any plant medicine is really important to integrate your experiences into your life. I don't think it's something that needs to be done all the time. Every few months I think is definitely enough to, get the downloads that you need, and then be able to in some capacity integrate those downloads into your life and into whatever kind of meaning that is to you. But yeah, what keeps me going back realistically is not necessarily healing or working necessarily having a problem to go to the ceremony with to work through. It's more about connecting with the people that go to these things, and I've made some really dear friends through that process. And now I also go to contribute and to I guess put what I know about that experience and kind of help people along their way as well. So any newcomers that come into the group, I think it's important to be supportive and to contribute to that community in that way as well. So I that's more why I go at this point. Yeah.
Beautiful. So the community is important, the plants are important. What do you feel like is different in your relationship to cactus than any other plants you've worked with?
Yeah, for sure. Having I suppose experienced other types of psychedelics, other types of plant medicine. I have done ayahuasca. It's a much gentler medicine than even mushrooms. I find mushrooms can be extremely scary sometimes, especially if again you're not prepared for. This epic trip, and then sometimes even just a small amount can take you like crazy places. And one thing too that I enjoy about it, there's more of a social aspect, or more kind of like a sociability with cactus that's different from doing something like mushrooms or ayahuasca, which is much more of an inward kind of journey. So I do like that aspect of it. It's like a very kind of chatty medicine. I always want to talk with other people and laugh and kind of play in a sense. It's definitely a more playful, like energizing sort of experience. It's the best outside. Whereas like with mushrooms, with ayahuasca, I feel like a lot of the time I kind of just want to curl up and be a ball or kind of laid down or be a little bit more inward and not kind of go and explore. Whereas cactus is much more of like this exploring, and being outside is like the best.
Sounds like the setting that you're in is playing a role in what the experience is. So you went to a cactus the first time, and was that setting similar to the ones that you did after with the other facilitator?
In ways, yes. It was slightly different. Being that it was winter solstice, it was cold, so the ceremony was totally inside. There wasn't a whole lot of it was done in a place that wasn't very big, like not a whole lot of room to kind of like walk around, do a whole lot of stuff. So, but to be honest, because it was my first experience, I was really okay with that in that moment. Like looking back, I'm kind of happy it was that, because it was more of like this kind of safe cocoon like experience, whereas my later experiences have been much freer. I've been able to move around. I've been able to take the time that I need away from people if need be, just because of the actual space of where these ceremonies are held. But I think like with any psychedelic, is really important. Like set and setting is extremely important, and your mindset going into that experience is really important. So, I generally like to go into those experiences with some sort of an intention, even if it's just to be present. Like sometimes that's all it is, and whatever is supposed to come up for you in those moments will come up however it needs to. So I kind of just like to let things unfold and surrender into that experience as much as I can. I find this way easier to do with cactus in comparison to other psychedelics. I tend to be a bit on the anxious side most of the time, and I don't find my anxieties provoked too badly with cactus. So I think it's a really great actually beginner medicine. Like if somebody has never tried anything, it's a nice kind of segue into the world of psychedelics. It's just a little bit gentler, as I mentioned before.
And what has been one thing that you feel has integrated into your life from working with this medicine?
Oh my gosh, so many things. I'll speak to probably one of the most powerful that I've had. Actually, there's a few that are really powerful. The first experience I had was extremely powerful because, again, I had a lot of resentment, and I had a lot of unforgiveness that I was dealing with at the time of that ceremony, with regards to, again, being abused. And really what I kind of integrated and what I realized from that experience is that any forgiveness of anyone else was actually first forgiveness of myself for allowing that behavior or those people to affect me in that way. And essentially through forgiving myself, I'm able to forgive everyone else, right? So that was a big shift for me for sure. And it just allowed me to shift my perception a bit in how I approach certain situations, and like how I develop boundaries too with people, right? I mean, it kind of works the same way. It's like you allow certain behaviors to affect you in a certain way, and it's like, if that behavior is affecting you in a certain way, like, where am I not putting boundaries in place for that to happen, for me to feel triggered and for me to feel resentful and for me to feel like something needs to be forgiven in the first place. So that was a bit of integration definitely from that first ceremony that I went to, which at that time was exactly what I needed, of course. It was extremely powerful for me in moving on from kind of all the things that had happened to me. My second ceremony, which was the first time that I went to the ceremony that I am now currently a part of, and I attend more frequently, was really more about like self-love. And again, I feel like with cactus is one of those medicines that, like a lot of psychedelics, again, you kind of have this realization that we're kind of everything. You know, we're everything. We're all one consciousness. And with that, you know, you're never alone. And at that time, I was really struggling with, again, my self-love and feeling kind of lonely. And I had this, again, just beautiful download that the only thing I need to really worry about is loving myself. I will always have me. The most important person in my life is me. And that's kind of the foundation of actually like what I do for work, is like teaching people how to take care of themselves so that they can live long lives and like be their best selves for them and for the people that are in their lives. So for me, that's kind of that integration, is like having that realization of self-love and then being able to embody that myself and then be able to teach other people how to do that. So that was definitely an integral one for me as well. And then the most recent experience that I had that was really impactful would have been earlier this year. And I, at the time, was just feeling extremely like pulled in all different directions and feeling very burnt out. And I had this, cactus has this kind of physical, like energizing feeling to it, which can almost like, I feel like it is almost equates to kind of like how it might feel if you were feeling anxious in ways, like, you know, your heart rate starts to elevate a bit and you kind of get like tingly hands and tingly arms. And at this point, about halfway through the ceremony, I did some hape as well. And hape is, you know, a stimulant, and so it was like it just added to the effect. And then you know, a friend of mine came to sit with me and, you know, grab my arm while I was, you know, having this hape and San Pedro combination experience, and it just felt like a lot. Like it felt like I just wanted to sit there by myself, and it felt like a lot. And it was like, again, where was I kind of overextending myself? Where was I giving away too much of my energy? And then just sitting in that discomfort too, right? Like not doing anything about that, but not saying what I needed in that moment, which was to just be by myself and allow myself to have that sort of experience and ground into that experience a bit. So I kind of just felt a little bit chaotic and all over the place. And what it made me realize was that I really needed to, you know, to figure out where my priorities were in my working life, because that's kind of, it was a metaphor for how I was feeling in everyday life. And so after that, I quit one of my jobs that wasn't in the direction that I was wanting to go with my career. It was just kind of a financial helper at that time, and I had been nervous about taking the leap and letting that go, for again fear of like the instability financially. But I realized it was something I needed to do if I wanted to continue to grow on the path in my career that I wanted to grow on. So yeah, I quit my job, and I haven't actually struggled since. So it was like exactly what I needed in that moment, is like stepping into that discomfort and stepping into fear, and being rewarded for that. Really, at the end of the day, I got what I wanted, which is a forward moving career and less burnout. And so yeah, it's interesting how you can take experiences that you have from these ceremonies and like really apply them, metaphorically or however you'd like to, into your life. You can always kind of use those situations as opportunities for growth. So yeah, I've definitely had more than those experiences, but those are definitely like my probably top 3 that have been really impactful for me.
Beautiful. Sounds like through this process, you're cultivating a lot of self-awareness, and you can apply that in a multitude of ways. So, final question, what is your advice for someone that wants to go into a plant medicine ceremony, and more specifically, San Pedro?
Honestly, it would to just like let go of what any expectations of what you think might happen in that ceremony. I think it's important to just, as I said, I think it is good to have an intention going into that ceremony, but having an intention is one thing, and then again clinging to that intention, or clinging to again an expectation of what you think that experience might be. It's like drop whatever you think that experience might be and just go and experience it for what it is. And I think the more that you can surrender to the medicine, the more that you'll get out of it ultimately. I definitely, it not related to cactus per se, but on my ayahuasca journey, I had a lot of anxiety going into that. I really don't like getting sick. And so for me, it was like, that was the thing I was thinking about the whole time. It was like, I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get sick. And it was like my anxiety was what like made that experience so horrible for me. So it was like that expectation of it, when it's like I feel like if I had allowed more, I probably would have gotten more out of that experience. It was still what I needed in that time, but yeah, that would be my advice, is just to kind of surrender and allow things to unfold the way that they're supposed to. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming,
Yeah,
and
thank you.
look forward to chatting again.
Yeah, thank you.